this description. But so I guess, we're still talking about mental health. Like this is the entire episode, but why, like, just really basic question, why is it so prevalent in so many people? Why are there so many people dealing with some sort of mental health problem, issue, whatever we want to call it? Like just that basic question.
That's a heavy question.
Mhm.
We don't fully have all the answers to that. I will say that for a lot of issues, there is, again, a biological component. And so, not to throw out like more numbers, except I'm going to, depending on the research study you look at, between, I think the numbers are generally between like 40 or 50% up to 80% even of people in their entire lifetime will have like one episode of depression at least. Most people walking around have had a depressive episode or are going to have one. It's part of the normative human experience. And I think part of why we have so many mental health issues is that we don't always know that that's normal. And so when we have something going on for us, we stuff it down, or we think that we shouldn't talk about it, or there's something shameful about it. And that just makes it grow. And when we are more open about things, and we do know that there's treatment, that there are options, then we can do something about that. But aside from that, there's a lot we don't know about psychology still, which makes it exciting and frustrating to work with.
Right. Like you said, it's a very newer science to the world, basically, that's being studied and everything. Yeah, because like I said, when you start opening up, I think I speak for, once again, the majority of the audience, when you start opening up about stuff like this, it's just shocking, like when you understand like how many people like actually struggle with something. And then when you start cracking down on it like this, it just makes you think, wow, why is it so common? Like, it doesn't, like, does that mean, would that be fair to say that the 40, 50, as low as 20% are the strange ones or something?
Honestly, my view is so biased at this point because like I have my own mental health issues, but also I'm a psychologist. So most people I'm working with or like interacting with on a daily basis have had these issues. So my view is skewed. But like sometimes I think about it, I'm like, people I went to high school with, are some of them like not depressed like ever in their life? Like what's it like to not have that? What's it like to not have anxiety at some point? Like that's
like God,
just not normal.
Right. Like, just imagine being happy all your life, 24/7.
Like, I feel like that would make me uneasy.
But that would be that technically, in my perspective, it's like that wouldn't be possible, because in order to understand happiness, you have to understand some level of sadness, And if you want that happiness to be greater, that the level of sadness and like the low in your life would probably have to be equally, if not greater than, the happiness. And it's not something where you can look at and it's just like, oh, we see a few things, so we know a few things. Like, I think that's actually from like an insurance commercial with J.K. Simmons, but it's not like that. It's like you can see it, but you have to experience it. That's a lot of things in life. You have to experience a lot of shit in order to understand a lot of shit. You can't just put it out on paper.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I'm cussing quite a bit now, but
oh, please, I'm not offended by it at all. I'm only censoring myself because this will be in the public eye, and I'm not trying to do jobs before I get them. So,
right. But I don't know, like that's insane, and it kind of, we, once again, this has really been directed towards adolescents and teens and everything. But what is it? First off, looking at the adolescents and the young audience, once again, with school, schools seem like, this was early in the episode, but schools seem more competitive nowadays. That there's more stress on students to be getting certain grades, numbers, and everything. And I could go into a lot about my opinion on education and everything.
Mhm.
But what is it? But what else is there plus school that's effective towards the adolescent and the teens? And what is there for the adults? Like these people that are like in their 40s, 50s, and 60s.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure you're asking me.
So I'll break it down even more. But what are the main factors that lead these teens and adolescents to these mental health issues, like school being one of them?
Sure.
And what is it for the adults? Because it doesn't seem like back then school would have been the problem for people who are now 40, 50, 60.
Right. Yeah, I think it still like was the case for some people, I'm sure.
Right.
But there's some things that again cut across time, like being broken up with, or even having to break up with someone, even if you're the person doing it, that can still be a very hard piece. Having poor interactions with parents or feeling misunderstood, feeling like you don't really belong anywhere, not knowing like who you are and like what you're going to do, being anxious about the future, and feeling like I think something more unique to this generation that we're in, or like these generations, like from like mine,
Mm,
which I'm in the millennial category, and then below, something that I think is a bit different is that people older than us, they were told to like get a good job that's a consistent paycheck and like, to like live a stable life. But
right.
somewhere along the lines, it shifted to, hey, if you're going to work, you might as well work with something that you're passionate about. And I think that people are now like back in the day, going back to like the people older than us, they were like, okay, by this age, by 18, I should kind of know what kind of job I want so I can go to college and blah, blah, blah. And that was reasonable-ish to kind of
Hmm.
decide at 18, because that's not like what you're passionate about. It's just like, okay, logistically, I could see myself doing this. But now we're asking like 18-year-olds and younger to know what they're passionate about and to pursue that. But you change as you grow. Um,
Definitely.
Absolutely. Even though I've wanted to be in psychology, I questioned it at points. I still question it to this day. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I did this too? Or did this on the
Hmm.
side or did this instead? Like feeling like things have to be absolute in what you want to pursue, I think is unique to like generations like mine and below. So
Right.
that's something that's different. But then
Definitely.
again, the relationship pieces have always been around. That piece with the parents, that piece with the romantic relationships, with friendships, all of those things have always been issues. It just might look different. Like people above us like didn't have social media as a factor. So like, oh shoot, like this person said this and commented on this. Like they didn't have that, but they're like, oh, this person asked this person to the dance. And I like went on a date with
Mm.
this person. And then they did like those things still existed. And so again, a lot of it's the same. It's just it looks different now because we've advanced. But then there's some things that are unique.
Right. So it's a lot of the similar factors in a new light, if that would be the
Yes,
right
that's
way to
a
put it.
that's a lovely way to put my
Hmm.
little ramble that I had.
Right. And so one of those things